Welcome back, listeners. So, Josh, in the first segment, we just gave our general soybean wrap up. Obviously, not 100% done across the area, but we are nearing in on that. But for segment two, we just wanted to shift focus here to corn. So, focusing a little bit more on corn, which is actually kind of the tune of how harvest is going. As we moved into this week's week, a lot of guys flipped over to corn, and I think it's going to be a big week of corn harvest for us here. I think in general, kind of the talk of the town right now is just the moisture of where this corn is sitting as we're taking it out of the field. It's been several years. You could probably tell better than I could how many years it's been since we've had corn coming out of the field at this favorable of a moisture.
Yeah, it's been a while. If I think back, I think it was 2016 was a pretty nice fall, but I think we always remember last year the most, and I think the general consensus is it's like, wow, my starting moisture this year is drier than I finished last year. And that's quite a statement. So anyway, when finished last year, it felt like it was in the winter, is what it felt like. And we were still dealing with really wet corn. So, and that's a great thing for our growers. It's just, it's a great thing in general that we can get going this early. And really, Allie, the way I see it right now, as the guys wrap up with beans and are switching to corn, the moisture is going to be extremely manageable. That should allow this corn crop to come at a pretty rapid pace. And the other thing, Allie, we're just getting started with corn. We talked about the moisture shocker. We maybe only got, maybe 5% of the green corn out. It might be a little bit more than that in some pockets and some maybe less, but still some really great early yield reports. And Allie, we have been doing pretty good in our corn locations. We, across Southeast Minnesota, we planted 70 this year. You and I accounted for, I think, 27 of those. And we got 12 harvested. I thought maybe we could just discuss maybe a few trends, but I think the moisture thing is definitely a part of that, and maybe just kind of see how our yields are shaping up compared to some historics.
Yeah, so from these 12 total locations, I'll maybe just start by pointing out the moisture average of these 12 locations. So it's sitting around 21% moisture. So, figuring in that the range of the set goes from a 98 day all the way up to a 106. So nice to see those moistures there, obviously with earlier maturities, some drier than that. Yet. I think on the yield side of things, before we maybe dig into the numbers, I was curious if you could just give your take on those late rains in August. What do you think that either added or saved us bushel-wise?
Yeah, that's a great question, Allie. And one that the conversation I've had with several growers where we did a lot of plot evaluations, Allie. I want to say like August 27th, 8th, give or take that time frame. And there's some plot locations that our team were in and evaluating walking out. And as we walked out, I'm not saying it was completely doom and gloom, but we walked out concerned. Big cracks in the ground. The crop was really starting to show the stress. The firing was there. And really, we're looking at the stage of this crop and not a lot of growing season left. I think a lot of us just thought, there's not going to be, even if we get the rain, I don't know if it's going to come soon enough. And the part that has really shocked me, in my career, I don't know if I've really seen a crop, catch a rain in September and change that much for the better, in say 20, 25 days. But I would say from that time, I think that rain that we had, especially in like Fillmore County, Mower, Winona, Houston, I think those rains are probably where 20, 25 bushel put on the crop. And I don't know if I've ever seen a corn crop change that much that late. And it's just been a pleasant surprise. And we're seeing some good yield results as a result of catching that late rain.
Yeah, no, like I said, I just wanted to get your take on that. I kind of like just you walking through that. I think it makes a lot of sense. So then as we come back to these 12 plot locations that we do have harvested, average wise, we're sitting around that 240 bushel range. I don't think it's going to be out of the realm, even knowing in some of these drier pockets that we were lacking on moisture. I think you still could be looking at some record. It's not out of the realm to still be looking at some record corn yield averages.
Yeah, and if we look at that replicated set that we've been doing since 2014, 2017 was our high at 237.1. You mentioned we're just over 240 right now. A long ways to go. We still got, 58-ish locations to get in there, but a great trend. And the other thing on the moisture, you talked about the summary, not a huge spread from 98 to 106. I think it's only a 4-point spread, a low of 19.6, a high of 23.5. So not a big spread, which is pretty awesome. And in most cases, we're not going to have to wait for that full season dry down either. Now, on the flip side, Allie, we talked about a lot of great things. We're excited about the yields. We're excited about the moisture. I always want to maybe, flip back and take a look at, there's always some challenges every fall. And And I think, Allie, this year, if we see some challenges, corn on corn acres were tough this year from a standpoint. We missed some tillage last fall, some other factors and just some things don't go right. But I do think corn on corn may lead to some isolated challenges. And I think if we see challenges, it's going to be on the corn on corn acre. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, like you said, I think we have to think all the way back to last fall. And it was so cool by the time we even did get any tillage done. So your residue breakdown does not work in your favor very well. And then you flip to the planting conditions we had. So obviously very favorable in terms of being dry moisture wise. But if you don't have moisture in terms of residue breakdown, if you don't have that in the profile, you're also not breaking down residue. So it's kind of a double whammy in terms of some of this, the role the residue is playing in some of this continuous corn on corn.
Yeah, and I think this corn on corn thing, as we get into some previous weeks, we'll maybe do a whole segment or an episode on this, Allie. I don't know where time went, but we're already up against the clock. But we want to thank all our listeners for tuning in, and be sure to tune in next week. There'll be a lot that changes the next week with a lot of crop coming out, and be sure to join us then.
You've been listening to Today in Agronomy on KFIL AM 1060. If you've missed part of the show or want to hear more, check out the show page at kfilradio.com or with the 103.1 KFIL app. Stay connected with Allie and Josh on Twitter. It's at Allie GYs, WISE, and at Josh Schaffner to submit your questions for the show. Tune in next Wednesday for the next Today in Agronomy on KFIL AM 1060.